Today.
Let me get a seat.
Cool. We got new sneakers.
These are the coach's game shoes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they nice office shoes though. They're really good. They're really comfortable.
Air Maxes.
They are the old school Air Maxes. 95 maybe. 95. Good day yesterday. Really successful day between us and the Titans. I thought their coaching staff and their players did an excellent job of being able to get to work, being able to go through all this stuff. Maria, you're throwing me off sitting over there.
Sorry.
It was a lot of fun to go out there and get some different people to compete against. I thought the players did an excellent job of taking it right to that level, but keeping it at that level without all the foolish things that we talk about, the fights and things of that nature. So I was really pleased with that. I was pleased with the work. I was pleased with the work we got on both sides of the ball, all three sides of the ball, because special teams work was really good as well. Being able to get out there and really put emphasis on our kickoff and kickoff return yesterday. And today we'll get a little punt return today. So I was fired up with those guys. Like, what a great staff to work with. I got nothing but a lot of really great things to say about those guys and how our guys behaved themselves. It was awesome.
Yeah, Coach, how did you, in review of the practices, how did the line specifically do?
Which one?
Both, offensively and defensively. I know usually in one-on-ones or in joint practices, that's kind of a stress test for some teams.
It's for some people. You know, one-on-ones, for like when you think about it from the offensive line standpoint, it's like one-on-ones for the DBs. Like there's a big-time stress test for those guys. And if you break even when you're a defensive back, you feel really good about it, right? When you break even from an offensive line standpoint, you really feel good about it. So you felt good about the work that we got, whether it been on our offense or our defense side of the ball, getting those guys some one-on-ones. Really got a chance to see some people show up in some one-on-one settings, particularly Rook. Yesterday showed up in a couple one-on-one settings in the team periods and in our one-on-one periods. And then you got a chance to see that premium matchup we talked about yesterday with Calvin Ridley and A.J. Terrell going out there really competing. Calvin set it off with the double move right at the back. We came back out, got a nice little route, and A.J. got a chance to compete and play. You hit a couple routes there that we typically see that are hard to cover, especially when you got that type of caliber receiver. So to get those guys out there competing that way, I thought was awesome. I thought it was a penalty-free ball. Which is another critical part in those moments, which you got to teach in one-on-ones, how not to get nervous and hold and grab and do things that are outside of the box to keep it normal football. And I got to give, I talked to Justin Hood a lot of credit for even to get that one-on-one setting like that when you're talking about the defensive backs. But up front, I was really fired up, man, with the one-on-one settings. I was really fired up about the team settings. It's going to establish. We got a much better run production from our guys yesterday than we got in the game. Obviously expected with your first team going out there doing those things. But the guys on the back end followed suit and was able to do some better things that way as well. And on the other side of the ball, being able to stop the run, I believe they had about, maybe 2 or 3 breakout runs yesterday. I don't want to call them breakouts, but got outside the normal confines of the cup, the normal confines of our defensive structure. But I thought the guys did a nice job of keeping leverage and balancing and coming to tackles and make plays.
Simmons said he enjoyed the work with Chris, and I think he won one, and he called it a draw. That it was good to get that kind of work in.
Yeah, you're talking about one of the premier players in this league, probably one of the better 3 techniques, arguably the best if you want to argue it. Across the board, let him and Chris Jones fight it out, whatever the case may be, and whoever else you want to throw into that, a guy from Carolina. But those guys are absolutely outstanding. So when you get that kind of work with Chris, another premium matchup that we didn't talk about as much, with Chris and Bergeron and those guys getting that kind of work inside with Simmons is absolutely awesome. And like that setting where those guys can stay off the ground, they can stay injury free. You get Simmons get a chance to get a one-on-one matchup with Chris. He absolutely won that battle, which they talked about. And not to get your quarterback hit is nice, to not have to deal with that. But then to have the ability to come back and have the ability to bounce back like Chris does and be able to ball up and absolutely stone them one time. And those guys, like you said, a draw, whatever the case may be. I feel good about how they practiced yesterday. It was awesome.
Tennessee's players were complimentary of your guys being fired up, but critical of their own lack of ability in their minds to match that. Is it more difficult, you think, being on the road, the stretch that they've had?
Well, you got to think about it. They got a stretch run going here, right? They just did the same thing out in Tampa. I believe they had 2 practices out there. And then, you got to give them a lot of credit for staying on the road, coming to us like a basketball team and doing the same thing. You can't take any of that stuff for granted. Like we talk about how we travel and how the performance is for your team. So, hence, hey, guys, use our weight room. Hey, guys, use whatever you need from us. Hey, guys, what do you need? How can we make this a little bit better for you guys to have that kind of genuine common courtesy to your opponent because of what they've done. Going to Tampa and then coming to us to practice is not an easy deal. It's not an easy task for any team. So hats off to those guys, literally, and what they've been able to do.
Thoughts on what you saw from Cam Ward?
Like I wasn't necessarily studying him, but when you go back and watch it on tape, you see a young guy that's fearless. I love his attitude. I love his work. I love what he's able to do. Obviously, he's brand new. He's learning his offense. He's finding out where he can fit those things in the windows. He got a lot of confidence in his arm, what he can throw and what he can do. So they got a bright future with the young man. And he's everything that was advertised. When you talk about the worker, and we know about that, that's legendary. So you know he's going to work at it and give you everything and his best efforts to go out there and get it done for those guys. So I'm fired up to see those guys go. You can never really be overcritical of a guy in a practice setting like that. Like those are unscouted looks. Those are all things he hadn't seen before. He'll have a better feel, better grasp today. So I love it, man. It's practice. It is what it is. Those are the things that happen in those type of deals. That's why I like him so much.
Generally, do you take a different approach when it's a rookie quarterback? Maybe not necessarily in joint practices, but when you're going up against a rookie,
you do. You do. You got to dare those guys to beat you at times in the game, and that those happen at times. Not in a joint practice setting. Not yesterday. That was not the case. I was out there strictly in an evaluation prospect, just like you guys were, and also the fun of it, and also that it's fun. It's fun to go play against guys and practice in that setting. I love it. So getting to know those guys, being able to work on the same page, like their defensive staff, their offensive staff, everybody thought did a great job.
Ron, what are you seeing with the second team O-line?
The second team O-line, it's really guys I got a bunch of faith in. When you talk about those guys and who would play, we've seen Hinton play significant football for us in meaningful games. We've seen Gwinney be able to go out there and really execute from the center position and do some really good things and really change some minds on us on what he could be and who he could be. I'm really fired up about that. Then you talk about Elijah Wilkinson, who's played a lot of, significant ball, whether it be in Arizona or wherever he's been, on a second stint here. Being back with us is a lot of fun to have him back. And then, obviously out there at the tackles, we got the young Jack Nelson at the right tackle, just learning and growing every single day. And then our other tackle right now in Parker, the fight that he gives us, and some of the length that he plays with, is absolutely unique. So, those guys all fire me up. Those guys all give me really good intentions. Like last year, we were able to put guys out there like Storm when he was able to go and play significant ball for us. News was at the time when he played 8 games for us. So those guys always got to be ready to go because you get nicked and bruised up front. It's a grown man's game, and those guys got to be ready to go for us.
What do you see from the White You'll have Storm back?
I don't know. I got to go definitely get with our guys and talk about it. Hopefully he's coming, and hopefully he'll be back. But I don't know the true answer to that right now.
Did DQ finish it yesterday?
Who's that? He did not. He had a little something in his calf. It came out to be pretty good information. I think it's a week-to-week thing now, so I don't think it's something that's significant. But we'll get more information after as we go as well.
How do you balance
I'll be back.
installation as you continue to grow during camp on opening day? Not show too much, but still continue to install. Can you do that with these practices?
So you don't worry about it as much in these practices. These practices are coveted very high. Guys don't want to get these things out. They don't want us giving away their information. We don't want to give away our information. Obviously somebody will talk too much. It is what it is. And you don't show everything, but you can show a lot more than you would show in a normal preseason game. Like we talked about it yesterday, some of the vanilla work you get in preseason games is why I'm not necessarily as in tune to play Michael Penix. It's not going to be that type of deal. You get a chance to evaluate people in one-on-one settings and man-to-man coverage versus street eat, whether you can see that. I know that. I love yesterday being able to get some of the unique specialized blitzes from that group and Denard and what he's able to provide us, so make Penix have to recognize some of those things. Yesterday, it was absolute brilliance. We got a overload. We identified it wrong up front in the protection. Michael Penix knew exactly where to go with the ball. He threw it out of bounds and saved us a critical bad play. That might have been the best play of the day. Forget the completions. Just being able to recognize and notice some of those type of things, which really fires me up, which you don't get in a preseason game. You would go out there and get normal 4-down spacing. You may get a couple off the ball back or blitzes, but you don't get anything really unique like we got yesterday, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
Kobe Bryant.
Yes, to answer you guys. Sorry, I'm coming right back. It was a hamstring, so he was out. He got it the other day. So he's been out with a hamstring. Don't know how significant that is. I think he's kind of on a week-to-week basis. Shame, too, because he's really coming on. He's doing some really good things.
Yeah, on the surface, it looks like Michael Penix going into his second year. It's similar to when you had Josh Freeman back in the day.
Ooh.
And are you handling Michael the same way you handled Freeman back in 2010?
It's hard to say to compare the two. Definitely see the talent, see the arm talent, all those type of things. Definitely being handled differently, and that was right from the beginning. We talked about we had a quarterback contingent when we picked him, and we had a lot of people, all hands on deck, who had a lot of opinions on that. When we talked about Zampese, you talked about Zach Robinson, you talked about TJ, you talked about DJ at the time, Chandler Whitmer. You know, you talked about a lot of people that are involved, KJ Black. We had a lot of people involved with actually the evaluation, the picking, the ideas, the opinions. And then when we got him here, it was definitely handled in a different way, right? We hired DJ Williams to come in here essentially last year as the assistant quarterback coach. And really, he was Michael Penix's coach throughout the year. You know, how you do meetings, how you handle the field, what's your preparation, what's your daily routine, what's your rhythm and routine. And then, you know, fortunately enough for us, because of the graciousness of Arthur Blank, I was able to promote him to be the quarterback coach and promote TJ to be the passing game coordinator, to get those guys in the same areas, to be able to lead the same way and to set those guys up for ultimate success. So, like, I got to say I've learned a lot more since managing the quarterback since then. With Josh Freeman days, got a lot of success out of Josh Freeman in that 10-6 season. Came back, went 4-2, and then we couldn't find our way. So hopefully I've gotten a lot better at managing those things and those aspects of my life and managing those aspects of our quarterback's life to make sure we have the continued success that we want to have.
It sounds like maybe.
You got one more secondary question. I'm just joking.
What about in regards to the preseason? Because I know back then.
Yeah, completely different philosophy, right? Back then for me, right? You know, I was back when everybody just did it the old school way, the way D-Led wants to do it, right? You go out there, you had 9-on-7, you had bull in the ring, you had everything. Lay on our back, pop up as fast as you can and smash the other guy. We had all those things. So, like, for me, like, it's a different philosophy on how you want to handle things. And, like, my philosophy with the quarterback is definitely to mitigate the amount of hits that they want to take that are unnecessary. And I just grant the preseason hits for a quarterback unnecessary. Mike knows how to take a tackle. Mike knows how to get hit. I'm good with that. I don't need to see it until it's absolutely money on the line.
Just mentioning that gave Ovi a concussion.
Ovi is a walking concussion, man. I've been dealing with this guy for a long time. Him coming through at the fullback, arguably one of the best fullbacks in Atlanta history. Arguably, I'm not giving it to you yet. I don't care what you say. I'm not giving it to you yet, man. You know, I'm gonna go check with those old Tampa Bay linebackers and see if we vote you up there or not.
It sounds like you think you left Josh Freeman to his own devices a little too much.
I wouldn't say he left him to his own devices. I would say grown and matured and developed and got better. You know, when we had Josh Freeman, I had Greg Olsen. I was able to get Alex Van Pelt. I was able to surround them with Tim Burbank. I was able to surround them with the great offense, right? Don't forget, you know, that year we had a lot of success. We went to that year. The next year we went to a lockout. The communication is lacking. You can't talk to them. There's rules. You have to be away from that player. Now, all those things happen. So when you came back, we were able to start that thing off. But there were some things left a bit to it that I want to go back and fix. And I'm not going to say we left him to his own devices. I think we did. When we were doing our collective bargaining agreement back in the day when we had our lockout, right? There's a lot of things that you would have done with that young man or being able to advise and to be able to help him a lot more in those ways if I had the opportunity to do it again with Josh.
As compared to
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know?
As compared to a second-year quarterback, when you talk about Kirk Cousins, which you said yesterday, you guys are discussing this week's plan. Based on how last season ended for him, is there a need to get him on the field in some preseason games?
No, Kirk Cousins' problems last year when we had to make the change was turnovers, right? All things that I can evaluate within the steady confines of what we're doing right now. So, like, if we feel like we want to get him out there, just get him some work, and I'm going to definitely compromise with a guy that's been playing in the league for that long, right? Like, that's a guy that's been playing in the league for a lot of time. He knows the amount of work he requires. He knows exactly what he needs to be ready, and I'm definitely going to communicate with him. Different than with the Michael Penix, right? Different than with anybody else on the football team when you're talking about that kind of a vet. There's only a few other guys kind of like that, like talking about David. We're talking about Bradley Pinion. You're talking about Aaron Rodgers, you know, you're talking about guys with significant experience that I can have that grown man conversation with, and Kirk definitely fits that bill.
Hey Raheem, I'm interested in the development of your you know, so much investment in your edge rushers to improve the pass rush.
I always like to steal my brother's line, but the pressure players.
Yeah.
You know, and we definitely invested into our pressure players, you know, and then I'm going to say it, you know, it's Fahana, but the ball hawking, right? So we got a chance to go invest in our pressure players when you're talking about Jalen and we're talking about Pierce, right? But people forget about Trice from the year before, you know. Went out with a significant injury last year. Getting him back has been absolutely unique. AK, who was coming along as our second best pass rusher last year, if not arguably, if not our first, being able to come on at the end of the season and get 5 sacks. So having AK, having Pierce, having Walker, having Trice, you know, having Flo, adding him to the mix as a 10-year vet. The other guy we could talk about when you talk about preseason, or even to be able to add Khalid Kareem to be able to come in here and get the significant reps that he was able to miss last year. He was with OTAs this year. He was with us with training camp this year. He's grown up a lot. So, like, to increase our pressure players that we have there, not even talking about Caden Ellis, not even talking about, Devon Diablo, some of the guys that we added that can also pressure. I think I got to credit our personnel department. I got to credit everybody that had any hand in to do with that. Our evaluation from our coaches, our scouts, all hands on deck mentality to make sure we increase our pressure percentage.
Specifically with the rookies
Yes.
and the learning curve that they're on right now, what did you want to see from them in this rookie training camp in terms of their progress and how do you evaluate how it's gone too far? I know it's
So-
preseason. But
So for those guys, they don't have their set role in what they're going to do to go win a football game, right? So really just want to see those guys' overall improvement. So when we're talking about the overall improvement for those two guys, it's absolutely edge setting, right? It's absolutely pass rush. It's absolutely knowing the difference between run down, change down, third down, situational ball, 2-minute. All of those things are not new, but things that are new for us and how we signify and how we code it to those guys to be able to get those guys to go out there and execute our game plans. So I'm just looking for that type of development within the practice. We kind of got a little bit last week with the scrimmage, the on and off, the transition from special teams, the transition to defense, the transition to different spots for Jalen Walker to be able to move around to different spots, the communication and locking in, loaded and hearing it all. Even just going to a simple substitution in a game plan, you can tell some of those guys aren't ready. When you call a different game plan or you call a different call that James may not be in, he just stands and looks at you sometimes. And it's no, that means you come out, right? So it's some things that you got to get used to with those guys, and you want those guys to get used to right here in practice, right here in our preseason games. All of those things are absolutely important and imperative.
You mentioned Braylon. Where are you at with how he's developing so far?
No, fired up. Trice, coming back, really having the whole year off and then being able to come back and do some things in the OTA days to get ready and his preparation to get right. And now moving into the more physical aspects of it all, you really see the physical strengths come out, right? Then it got into some of the things of the back-to-back days. We constantly talk about, our maintenance plan with certain players, and obviously you're going to have one with him coming off that significant of an injury. So seeing him grow and develop every day and to be able to communicate with us at a high level, I think are some of the things that are very important for a pro, and that's what he's been doing.
I feel like we don't talk about David Onyemata enough.
You don't.
How valuable is his presence on that team?
Absolutely outstanding. He is a grown man. He's he's our older veteran in there right now. He's kind of filling that Grady-esque role, and you never want to compare anybody to Grady, but, David's got significant time in this league, not necessarily the same amount of time that Grady had with this team and in this environment, but, he's one of the guys that keeps things together. He's one of those guys that you can always count on. He's one of those guys that absolutely gives us everything he got every day. And, I can't say enough about him, what he does in the run game. I can't say enough about him what he does when he gets his pass rolls. He's a guy that we love.
How would you assess how Kirk has performed so far?
He's been really good. You're talking about going through progressions and absolutely throwing the ball wherever you need to throw it. Obviously he has the ability to come out the pocket a little bit better than this time last year, coming off the significant injury. That's dramatically improved, like it improved throughout the season. So when you're just talking about the windows of time and what he had last year, OTA days, it was fresh. Training camp, it was better. In the season, he was fine. And then he went to do what we had to do. But I really love where he's at from a communication standpoint with Mike, from his coaches. I really love where he's at with the communication standpoint with us. And it's one of the things that you just can't give him enough credit for. Like I knew, obviously the swirling winds of the bad human of every people that come out, he's not that. And those are the things that I was really confident in when I knew he can be here and do whatever needs to get done. And again, I don't blame him for wanting to go somewhere else and try to start. I do too, right? It is what it is. That's not his fault. I think it's about the explanation of us being absolutely upfront and personal with him, and we've got the best results from him.
In a perfect world, you talk about how much you really like the joint practices. Would you like to see maybe another week of joint practices with another team, maybe not as many preseason games?
I like to get 4, and I'm not going to answer that question right now. I let that be handled by the powers that be. I love joint practices. I love the NFL. I love the format that we do, and we put a lot of thought process into it. So, I know we'll continue to dig and we'll continue to dive into it. My opinions I can give to Rich McKay, and he can take it to the front office. He can take it to whoever he wants to take it to. And I choose to always kind of use that as my sounding board.
Ron, no Darnell Mooney, who's winning that battle?
Say it again.
No Darnell out there, who's winning that battle?
I mean, he knows the clear-cut answer to this. Casey's been out really showing up. He showed up in a big way in some of the speed threats. Obviously David's been out there doing a lot of really good things. So, who's winning the battle? I love the competes. I love the battle. I love the fact that you're asking that question. I love those guys going out there absolutely trying to get it, and it's been fun to watch those young guys come. Chris Blair's brought some things to the party. There's been a lot of significant people out there playing some significant ball. Drummond has really contributed to that. So, like, all of these guys going out there competing is absolutely what you love as a coach and absolutely what you love as a franchise.
Any concerns that Mooney's missing those valuable reps with Penix?
There's always concerns with missing reps, but there's not a concern with Mooney. The preparation, the diligence, the person that he is, and what he puts into it, I know I'll be able to get back in a fairly quickly fashion just because of who he is and who our performance team is and the trust that I have in Michael Penix to put the work into it that he has to put into it when he gets back. That lets me sleep well at night.
Any time
The same thing as it's been. It's week to week. Obviously, like I said yesterday, about a week and a half into it or whatever it is, 2 weeks now. I'm not counting. You count away. I'll listen to my team of doctors and performance teams and Mooney and all of our guys that's involved with that.
Coach, with the
you are a fullback. You can't ask a question.
Real quick, just with the lack of practices and the physicality from years before to now, how are you getting your players ready to go game one without as many practices? Because as we know, 2 days is not a thing anymore, but also goal lines being reduced and other things. How are you getting your players ready to hit?
I think it's really important to get these guys to understand the contact and the things that's necessary with the contact, right? So, like, everything up front is just about as live as it gets. So when you talk about these practices with pads on, every time you have pads on, even in season, it's about as live as you can get without going to the ground and actually using cuts. Right. So after that, the things that I really love that happens for the DBs and the second level players is the ability to make them thud. Right. It requires a certain amount of energy to go thud a human. Right. You have to run up on them and take those extra steps to create that thud. That lets those guys take those extra steps and create that thud in the game. So you don't necessarily see DBs diving at ankles right now trying to make tackles because they're focused on making the thud. When you see people miss tackles in the game is when they go out there and dive at ankles, miss the tackle, you jump around them laughing and go block the next guy. So, like, right now, we're creating habits to take the extra step in our tackling game and our process. So I really like that. And the same thing goes for the blocking, right? When you got to block and stay up and you're not necessarily throwing, you got to take the extra step to get that block, to get your hand placement, everything in the right place. So I think all of those things are important. I think everything that you teach, you coach, you go about that process is how you get those things done.
Thanks, y'all.
All right, guys.
Thank you.